Welcome back to the ALLSET podcast, where we talk about workplace health. In this episode, I chat with Dr. Arun Jayaraj, who took the less road path of becoming a personal trainer after finishing medical school. Specifically, I asked him about his story, how he coaches his corporate clients, and his unique perspectives as a doctor turned trainer. This is your host, Jing Zhi, founder of ALLSET. Let's get started. Hi Arun, thanks for taking your time out for this session. Right, I'm just going to get straight into it. Right, you transitioned from medical school straight into coaching.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what made you decide to do coaching as a career instead of proceeding on with the usual medical track per se?
Yeah, so I get this question quite a lot, and over time I figured out a better way to answer it. And really, the purest answer was the fact that I've been interested in fitness for so long, and I love working with people to improve their health in general. So I could have done that as a doctor, but I decided, let's pursue this passion right now. And that's what I've been trying for the last few months, full time since I graduated medical school.
How's that going so far?
So far, it's been great. Just like starting up any kind of business, it takes a lot of things and moving parts to get working at the same time. But honestly, just because of the passion, it just pushes me right through, and I've enjoyed it.
Any part of you feel like you would go back to the medical track one day, or
I mean, I wouldn't close the door. I think that's always something that could be open for a while. But I try not to think about it right now because I'd rather focus on building this business and working with the clients that I have and also potential ones to give them my best work. So for now, I'm not really going to think about what the future holds.
So tell me a bit more about this business you're on. What sort of coaching do you provide?
So throughout medical school, as much as I was into fitness, I spent a lot of time with patients improving their health and trying to understand why and how they got to where they got to. And one of the most important things I've realized over time is that in any healthcare system or any public health system, preventative health is one of the most important things. And that's something I've taken out from my learning for a lot of my clients. And I try to push on this idea that your health habits at the end of the day are the things that you have to focus on. There's so many things we can do to improve our health, but for me, it's about teaching them how to prevent for anything bad in the future, and also how to optimize themselves so they can perform better at work and also with their family as well.
So what exactly does that look like in terms of conversations, in terms of strategies you adopt? What does that look like?
So it's all about really understanding why someone has gotten to the way they have. I mean, we have many reasons why we may need a coach or generally need more help with our health and fitness. So it's about understanding how they've got there and then slowly tweaking habits that work for them. Each and every person has a different reason why their habits don't maybe work as well as it should be. So I go in to understand where I can make those tweaks over a certain period of time. And over that time, with those habit changes, whether it's weight loss, increasing energy, or getting stronger, I'll help them achieve those goals.
So you do something quite unique, which is performance coaching as well. Can you tell me more about that, right? How do you go about doing it?
So unlike maybe when we think about health as in I'm at a certain state and I would just like to be better, I try to think of it as I like working with clients who not only just want to be a little bit better, but want to be at their best. Let's say if we're all cars, we want to optimize it, we want to send it into the shop, we want to make it the best car possible with whatever we have. And our bodies are all very different. We may not be able to compare your body to my body, but I can be the best version of myself. So with performance health coaching, it's about performing at your best with the body that you have. And so just like I said earlier, just by understanding someone's problems and their circumstances, we find ways that they can go to their max and be able to feel that in whatever they do.
So let's say I'm a client, right? How would you, take things as they go along? How does it even start, right? Do you do online? Do you do offline, like in person? Or how does it look like?
So I think at the core, I think every client should be in some form online. Not so much because it's easier or it's just more flexible, but more so, even if you went to meet a client at a gym or any fitness space, what happens in between? Because throughout the week and between sessions, I mean, you should have some form of connection with them to say, how are you doing? What are some of the changes you need to make? So it may not be that official online, but I do think that a coach from time to time need to build a relationship throughout the week. And so what I'm employing, or something that I've been doing recently, is to have a general online structure that engages them with how they're doing, the habits that they need to change, including their nutrition, their fitness, and general other well-being habits. And also right now, I'm also getting into training clients in a gym so that in addition to all that, they can learn how to get stronger as well.
Yeah, okay, so while you're taking like some of your clients, are there any points whereby you realize, hey, this is something I can do because I've attended like medical school? Because some of your clients probably like take up your training because you attended medical school, right? And
Yeah.
not some other trainers because they didn't attend medical school, right? So what are some of like, these unique offerings that you provide?
So I think also inherently for me, I really like to fully understand why someone has become or has, has reached a point where they need to hire a coach. And one of the things in medical school, and I think maybe any doctor has learned throughout their process, is to truly understand the problem. And when it comes to medicine, it's the ailment or the disease or the whatever medical condition. You need to understand months and years and before to see how they got to that. So with every single client for me, it's also about really understanding the problem. You can't really just provide a solution because you think that, okay, this person has this and that. You really have to go deeper into understanding their ideas of why they're the way they are, their concerns, their expectations from you, and even certain important things like their medical conditions and when to actually refer to a doctor, which I think is also a very important thing, that you shouldn't just take on every single client as it is. Be aware that, sometimes that as a doctor, you would have learned that when things are not for you, you should pass it on to someone that is better off doing it. And I think as a coach for me, and with my ethics and morals that I've learned, is that I will only take on people that I know I can take on, and also send them off to other people that are better off and better suited, even if that's not really good for the business, but it's the right thing to do. And those kind of ethics and morals is what I got and I will hold on to for throughout my coaching career.
Okay, so I've got a question that stems a bit from my experience, because I've worked with some doctors before, right? And they do sleep pretty strange hours, in a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Or unique hours, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What do you think of that? Like, what do you think of the doctor's lifestyle? Is it healthy? Well, how do you go about like health coaching them even?
It is. It's ironic how difficult it is to stay healthy as a doctor. I'm not saying it's impossible, but based on a lot of things I've seen in medical school and some of my friends right now, the schedule does not really help a healthy lifestyle. We'll tell people, have a consistent sleep cycle, hydrate well, eat well, and rest and mindfulness and everything. But when you're working long 12-hour plus shifts over 70, 80 hours a week on your feet from patient to patient, it is not easy, as you said. So you kind of have to just work with what you have.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you can choose to leave, but I think the more important thing for anybody is to see, okay, this is what I have right now. There are things that I can control and things that I cannot. Some of your shifts, you might not be able to control. But trying to find better strategies throughout your week on going to sleep, like making even small changes with your sleep, like lowering the light of your room, reducing the temperature, not stimulating your mind or using your phone before. There's a whole list of them. And for each of these habits, water, eating well, sleeping, exercise, you need to try your best and you need to make small tweaks to make it a little better.
Speaking of which, right, when you do health or and performance coaching, what are some of like the metrics that you look at, or the indicators of success, right, successful coaching that you look at?
I think it's when a client hires you, they hire you for very specific reasons. So someone might be like, I want to lose weight. So your metric very often is, are you able to produce that weight loss? But for me, that weight loss is a byproduct of a lot of the things that you're doing. And at the end of the day, the client needs to be happy with what you're doing. And the client also needs to be happy with what they're doing to produce that weight loss. So sometimes they might not be losing weight the way they want, but if they're having a great time learning how to be healthier, spending a more meaningful time with their family, making better choices with their food, then that weight is something that you don't always have to focus on. What you want to focus on is a better life. Over time, you might have to focus on the weight, but for me, it's about making them feel better about themselves. Because when we're feeling better about ourselves, we'll be able to do long-term changes, and then you won't have to hire a coach again, because at the end of the day, we're helping people so that they can go help themselves. And I think that's what's important, for them to feel good and learn new things about themselves.
So speaking about weight loss, right? That's probably like one area you look at. The other area is probably preventable disease, something that some of the trainers might not look at. What's your take on using exercise, right, as, a way to prevent diseases, right? And also to, mitigate, right, what you're already having.
So if you look at the studies, and any doctor should recommend to you that maintaining a healthy weight, exercising, well, right now it's actually over 150 to 300 minutes a week, which it just increased. Eating a good balanced diet and getting good sleep are some of the basic foundations of being healthier. And by doing these four I would say basic habits, they're not easy, but they're four basic habits, you can prevent an array of diseases, including heart disease, diabetes, and obesity as a disease as well. So it is really, I would say, for anybody who's wanting to prevent disease, focus on very basic habits that you need to do over time. Don't get into the specifics of what to do, supplements to have, and tracking your sleep to a point where you're consuming too much data. The point is, go to sleep at the same time and wake up every day if you can. Focus on the basics and start from there, because at the end of the day, you want to look back and say, look, I tried my best. Whatever happens in the future happens, but you have to look back and say, in my 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever it is, I tried my best, and I did it for a greater purpose, like my family, my work, myself, and that's all you really can have.
That sounds just a bit, like a typical doctor's advice, right? I suppose you bridge the gap, right? When someone comes to you for health coaching, right? So when someone comes to you for health coaching and, they have heard the doctor's advice, right? Where do you really start? Is it the sleep? Is it the exercise, the nutrition? Or you try to get like a bit going all at the same time, right? Or it's different case to case. What's it like when, taking your clients, right?
So the difference is your doctor only has maybe 10 to 30 minutes to quickly tell you what you need to do, and then they're not really in contact with you, which is kind of one of the issues that I realized, that you see a doctor once in a while, it's not enough of a contact. What happens after? So I kind of bridge that gap after you've seen a doctor to be like, how do we get you throughout, so that when you see a doctor again, you're in a better state. And when I think about habits, the first habit that I nearly always fix is sleep. Because sleep affects so many things in our lives, and it's one of the ways that you can by actually putting in more work with your sleep, it allows you to feel more energized, make better choices throughout the day because you're cognitively at a better state as well, and also you're more likely to also have the energy to go and exercise. So then that's the next thing. Fitness is second after sleep for me. A lot of people argue that nutrition should be first before fitness. But for me, it's like, if you can spend 30 minutes a day, even if it's a walk, that's a huge change for your life. And very often that I've seen in my clients and a lot of my friends as well, when you start engaging in fitness, you start, being more self-conscious about what you're eating. Because you're like, I already put so much work in the gym. I put so much work in what I'm doing. Shouldn't I just eat better? So I think sleep, fitness, nutrition, and hydration is how I would go by the steps. Of course, it wouldn't be as structured. I would still kind of use a little bit at a time. But I think for most people, fix sleep, fitness, and nutrition and hydration.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you one last question. All right, just to wrap things up. What are your plans, in the coming months and in the new year ahead?
Well, I think other than the fact that I'm now looking for more clients in person, I mean, after moving back to Singapore, I'm going to start working in, like I said earlier, I do a lot online, but it's time to do a lot more fitness in person. So I'm going to start reaching out and finding clients in person who actually want to work with someone who will transform their body and their mind through holistic approaches. But at the same time, I think over the next few months, what's also important is to understand a little bit about preventative health in Singapore and try to understand generally the gap between the medical industry and the fitness industry. Because as you know, there are gaps in both. I mean, I would say they both lack in certain areas to provide a seamless experience for clients and patients. Because you might have a coach that tells you a whole bunch of things, but then there's no connection to your doctor. And your doctor very often cannot tell you a lot of things about fitness and health because that's not their specialty, and you can't expect them to know everything as well. You can't expect them to know everything about the brain and then tell you how to eat better, right? You can't expect that. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to bridge that gap. So while I am working with clients, I'm also trying to find out how we can produce or create something that binds both industries together.
I totally agree, like with the gaps at both sides, and having a bridge in between will help. Thanks so much for your time. All right, I wish you all the best. And with that, we conclude this session.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
With that, we conclude this episode of the ALLSET podcast. If you'd like to learn more about health for office goers, feel free to hit the subscribe button. If you know of a guest we should feature, please reach out to us. If not, till next time, take care.